Hi there. So we live on the banks of the River Hawea, and a couple of years back, basically, oh, here we go. This is our setup. It's working. Thank you. That's our setup at home. Chicken pens and things like that. And a few years, about 5 years back, we had a rat infestation come in, and they came from nowhere. And we wasn't doing much about it. We went away on a holiday, came back, and they had exploded after 5 weeks. Couldn't put poison down because of the dogs we got. We got 20 dogs at home to help us with all this. Didn't have a rat dog amongst them all, which is a pain. But anyway, we just carried on. This is the extent of the trapping that we had to do to try and keep on top of that. So in that year, we managed to catch them. We had all types of different traps out. But as time went on, a few years later, I decided to breed pheasants, and I put pheasant pens down. Set up some nice pens. I wanted colour in the area. And inevitably, the corn, the feed, it brought in a few rats. Then it brought in a few more rats, then a few more, and it just kept building up. And I couldn't get the rats to take poison. I was struggling with poisoning them. That's just one night in one pen. 16 rats in there. There was 3 pens like that, plus what was running around the paddock. They were eating the corn. The only thing they were hurting really was my pocket. They wasn't bothering with the pheasants. Then when I took the pheasants out that I'd been, the adult pheasants, and I put the poults in, they started eating the poults, and that started to affect me then. They were eating the poults from the inside out. They were going in through the vent and burrowing inside, eating all the insides first. This is what I had to go to. So first of all, I put the fence around, and that didn't work. They were running along the top shelf. They were pulling that down, climbing over, getting in through there. All the way around there was bird netting. I knew they'd chew through it easy, but I still put it up there. And they were still getting back in. They're still killing more poults. I lost hundreds of poults. Yeah. The only thing that stopped them in the end was I put the electric fence on. And that really slowed them down getting in the pens. But it didn't get rid of them. I still had the problem. We had rats everywhere. This is the pit, because we got 20 dogs. This is my pit where I took the dog crap. Bones, skins, whatever. We were lucky enough to be given lots of dog meat carcasses, things like that. This was just one night. I find that fascinating. That's a challenge. When I seen that, that's a challenge. It wasn't, oh my God, what am I going to do? It was, wow, here we go. I'm going to have some fun with this. So I thought I could trap a rat till I discovered this lot. And the work that was needed and what I'd done and put all the knowledge that I had. I couldn't put poison anywhere up at the pits because of these two. That's the neighbour's cat. I haven't killed it yet. He won't let me. That's the dog. Fair enough. I'd like to get rid of them all, but the neighbour he only lives across the way there. The neighbour just seems to think it's fine that they come over. I don't. I'm annoyed. But there we go. The cattle did disappear eventually. But they had a problem, and I don't like to use poison. I'm a hypocritical poisoner. It's more of a challenge if I can trap them. So we've moved the pits along, filled a few in. That's like a bomb site, and it still is. This is one night's trapping. The best night we had was 57 rats in 1 week. 57 rats in 1 week. I use all types of traps. The Victor snap trap was brilliant until I started getting the big rats. The fen trap has been my favorite trap. I know we got problems with setting them on different grounds because dock banning them, etc. But if you set them properly, and I was taught to set them properly by a gamekeeper back in the 80s, and he taught me that if you can see your trap when you walk away, you haven't set it properly. So it brought back all the old skills of setting the traps and things. These are some of the smaller ones, 420. They went up to 490 was the biggest rat we had. I can't remember if it was 493 mil long and 490 grams in weight, but it worked out that roughly they were a gram per millimeter. The average biggest one was 480, so we had quite a few at 480. 2 went up to 490. I mean, when you got a rat like that coming across, you just don't know. Something to read. Basically what I just said. The rats, when I started shooting them, I noticed that the larger rats, which we would call the dog rat back home being Wales, they were on the outskirts. The younger big rats that were taking the food, they were around more of the food source. So the bigger rats were easier to shoot, and 9 times out of 10 they were really battle scarred. And they get in a hell of a mess. They fight like hell, these rats, when they're doing each other over, like. If that's the way to put it. They really do. This one only had half a tail. He took me 5 nights to catch
He's a
him.
bit of an old bugger.
And I noticed him in the
Half-tailed.
dog kennel area
Keeled over.
through a thermal. I thought it was a rabbit first of all. I shot a
Been
few
around here
rabbits
for a while, I'd
and
say.
I dropped one down. I think I forgot
Yep,
to pick it up. Anyway, I come back the next day.
catch.
Obviously,
Get him.
something had been eating it. I took it was this rat.
Got him.
So over 5 nights, I moved the rat, the
Yeah, well, less
rabbit
in the
closer
back.
and closer and closer
with the rat.
until I eventually put it in the cage and then I caught him. He was quite a size. I was quite a chat. That's a challenge. I can do it. I'm lucky, but that's what I had to do to catch that thing. Mary was my apprentice. This is what I got greeted to a few times after a night shoot. Wake up in the morning, look what I've caught. She was very excited by trapping her rats. And she's learned. At one time, Mary was setting traps around the area where we make our own dog food as well, mince it all up and things like that. And that obviously would have brought them in. And she had a set amount of dozen traps or so, and she would go around them, and she could hear the traps going off behind her as she was growing. And that's in the daylight. So this one here, that's a 60 mil hole. So when we think of a rat, we think of a rat. So like most people do, think of a rat like that. That's just incredible where they were coming from. And like I said, they just came from nowhere. Obviously, they bred up eventually, but they started off because we wasn't too bothered with rats. We had a few chickens. Out of all, like I said, all of my dogs, I never had a rat dog, which was a bit of a pain, really. And the dogs were not really interested in them. So that was a hard work thing to get going. So that's all the traps that I use, or some of them. The leg hole's not on there. And setting them up. The little cage trap, the black one, is great for little ones, works a treat. But again, if you've got large rats, you've got to think he's not going to get stuck in a small, average size, even the Galv one at the bottom. He wouldn't have taken one of them large rats. The door would have closed on it and the back would have still been hanging out. So that explained the reason a lot of my traps had gone off. This is rat eating rat. So one of my favorite baits, which I discovered by accident, just by chucking a young rat in there. Yeah, they munch them. They love them. But it's a bigger rat eating a smaller rat. This one had dragged them across the plate, and that's a Doc 250, which is not usually used for rats, but I set them a bit finer. They're old, the spring's weak, but they work a treat. So that would have gone back in as more bait, would have scraped it off and used that as bait, and I caught again on it. This was about 3 weeks ago. I vary my baits, I don't stick to it. I don't use arrays. Never used it. I don't like it. I just think fresh is best, and it's proved its point to me over and over again, not just with rats, but with the cats and everything. So young rat, minced salmon, we minced salmon up really fine, put it into a muslin bag. The oil leaks out into the muslin. You've got scent going on for a long time. Fresh rabbits around, they eat rabbits. So you've got to look at your environment and see what's around you and what they're feeding on. It seems a shame, like if you've got birds, I would stick them in there. This is a rat warren that I didn't know was there until I had a rat dog come and stay with me for a while.
In the new
this was all covered with pine needles, and then there was 1 or 2 holes, and I was mag toxing them. I'm not getting very far. And then I built a new dog pen and put the dogs in. I managed to get the dogs to start on the rats. And that's 12 meters across from one end to the other, that is.
Left it like a bomb.
And there's rats everywhere in there. They would just go in and, with the assistance of the dogs, it was great. As you can see, they all learned. They were digging them up. They'd channel them down and then catch them. 9 times, mostly they didn't get success like this, but they kept the pressure on. And that pressure was good for me for killing them. The pheasant pens are just to the left of that picture, which was a bit of a, not quite set up as I should have set up, but yep, it was all good. There's a little old boat there, which I call an entertainment centre, which I use for the dogs, part of their training, jump all over. Anyway. And a rat got into all the old wooden stuff. Welsh miner. Anybody who does cat work should have a Susie. She dug that out. She'd actually dug down to a nest of rats there. She just kept going. I let her go. She dug it out. The bottom of the boat, her and her daughter, they ripped it out completely to get a rat. Just to the extent of what the rats will do, just to hide and get away. They're good. They're a real good, formidable target. They really tested me big time. I would spend ages setting traps, 5 days with nothing to set a trap and just to get him in before I actually activated the trap. Again, different type of dog, but she was following up. You can see the depth. The rat warren went down about 500 mils below the roots. A lot of them followed the roots of the pine trees. They were actually up in them pine trees. That's a couple of rats that done with the thermal at night in the same area. They were climbing, living in the tree as well, so I was shooting them out of the trees. Ted's seen it. I took him out one night, Ted, and he just seen the colony, and it was just, I think he was a bit blown away by it. This here was a little experiment I set up where I had a security camera looking down on the rats. They'd been eating, what was it, Mary? Sheep nuts, that's right, yeah. So I got rid of the sheep nuts, put a pile of sheep nuts down, set all traps around. I set a lot more traps than that about there. Had the security camera above there, put a Doc 200, there was a live catch. There was a quad just by there. The fen trap would retreat on the quad because the rats would run all over the quad, and I think it was metal on metal. I drove Mary crazy waking up 3 o'clock in the morning, studying the rats on the camera. And it was great watching them coming right up to your trap and just not going in there, nosing around it and walking around and around. And even to setting the trap right, as I would be, because I couldn't cover it with soil, I'd be slotting stones in amongst all the fen bits so they'd be leveling out, so they'd step on something level and didn't tip the trap and set it off. Yeah, I think I was a bit obsessed. But yeah, it was a result. Setting them on the wall like that is quite a good way to set a snap trap because they've got to come up to it. If you've got a lot of rats around, they can come over the back of your trap. If you set it on the wall, they've got to come up and stick their nose in it first of all. That'll give you pretty good success in some areas. Again, fen trap. This runs through in the bottom right-hand corner. I made it to start with rabbits, but it proved itself successful for everything that I could trap, basically. And it's just about 1 meter long, nothing in there, no bottom in there. 2 fen traps, sunk down in the ground, hazed over.
So this one here.
Oh, a bit of yapping here.
It's taking me, scratching up that earth and making it rough on the rat run that you can see through there. And doing
Just
that
talking to myself.
before I put the trap in, and the trap went in yesterday. And that's the result last night.
But this line was picked up by Katie, the rat dog. She came to stay with us for a while, and so her training was pretty much enhanced by all what we had going on. She detected that, and I took again like 5 days before I actually put that down. This is the way I like to set. The way I was taught to set a fen trap: digging the scrape at the end, putting it in, make sure it's all set level, partially covering, walk away, can't see the trap. If you've got to cover it, I still set them that way, even if I put a cover over them. And that produces a lot more. When I worked for Doc, we weren't allowed to do that. The biggest problem I had when I was working with Doc, I had 2 years with them, I was constantly being told off for spending too much time setting traps, which was a bit of a pain, but that's the way I do it. Grant gave me this photograph for his Hawea River project. And a lot of these rats that he's been catching and seeing are bringing around carcasses. So the carcasses, a bit like home for me, where I dump the carcasses, I got a rat colony, they'll set up. And you might, if a cow dies somewhere, how many times do you know about that? Unless you go looking for it, you won't know this cow's dead. And these rats will set up home there. And I can't remember what the breeding rate is, but before you know it, you've got a colony of rats burrowing in and eating away. And this is something that Grant has got to put up with on the Hawea. So you've got to think about it. They're out everywhere. There's more about. We would never have thought we'd have that amount of rats where we live. And the other thing that the rats do, as far as I'm concerned, they bring in the cats. Sorry. All right. So rats will bring in cats, whether it's coming in because the rats have basically pointed out there's a food source there, I don't know. But we've trapped over 90 cats on that little spot of ours as well. We get them up the river bank, all sorts, and dogs. I'm a firm believer that we need to utilize dogs in this battle against becoming predator-free. They will tell you a lot more, a lot quicker as far as I'm concerned, than setting up a camera. Cameras are great, they're there all the time, but you can walk around with a dog, and if you know your dog and you're tuned in and his nose is there, he will tell you a lot quicker, or she. For me, it's I learned to love the animal. I don't hate cats. I think they're brilliant. I think they're amazing. So there again, it's a challenge for me to get on top of them. We're going into their environment, the cats, the rats, whatever. You're going into their environment. They're skilled in their environment. You've got to learn from them, find out what they're doing, find out where they're running, find out what they're eating. It's no good just sticking one bait down and think it's not working. You've got to keep changing that bait. Your trap might not be in the right place, move around. Even with the dog traps, you can still haze them up with rocks, piles, locks, set them back, make them look like they shouldn't be there. I mean, most of the time you're going to stick a trap down and we'll stick it on a run. And it's almost like having a shed put into your back garden, isn't it? You're not going to go in there when you find it there. You're going to go around it and avoid it for a while. And again, for me, watching with thermals, these animals do exactly the same. So that's a few rat dogs that we've got. I've had a hand with helping. I eventually got my dogs into rats, teasing them with the rats up there and things like that. There's bits of dog I've been training. He's indicating on I'm not sure if that's the video. He's indicating on a live rat in the cage there. Oh, here we go.
Was it? Hey, good boy. Be interesting.
Going around the trap just to haze it up a bit more. That's all that's in there. There's rocks and leaves. So I'll put that around there. Different baits. Fat is a really good bait. I've never had any luck with peanut butter at home. Never. Some people do. So it just goes to show you've got to change your baits all the time. Keep it going. This is Leonia that owns Katie, the rat detection dog. She lives down in Timaru. These are the two old dogs. They've gone now. I think this was the Ashley River she was on. Yeah, we're just not utilizing dogs enough. Every trapper should have a dog and learn from it. He'll get his nose out and he'll tell you. You'll learn from it. You'll find out when there's a cat about. You'll find about. This was a cat project I was involved with. Again, like I said, they bring in cat box I designed. And they followed the rats. They must have done the amount of, when you're thinking about this talk, the amount of rats we had come through with the amount of, cats that followed through with rats. And they wasn't killing the rats. Not to my knowledge, anyway. They were just coming in for the food I had around, which would have been the poults and the pheasants. The pheasants were only going down because I wanted to see a bit of color. And it was just a bit of I was fed up of bald paddocks. And so we started out a little trapping thing. Oh, yes. I let my guard down. I've got a quail house, which I was breeding for food. I walked in the other day and my 30 quails was down to 6. There was see the little hole in the top corner of that there? The rat had chewed its way in, come in, nailed them. And I'd done the worst thing possible. I set my traps and I set them all for that night instead of leaving them in there and letting him run around, come back in. I changed the landscape and he came in. I'd say it came in all nervous as such and shut up now, Billy. Might be the end of it. I think it's the end of it. That goes quick.
Any questions?
Make the trap more appealing or make the bait more appealing? So the trap's got to be whatever bait you're using as far as I'm concerned. Baits and trap work together. So for the trap to be more appealing, I'll haze it up. I'll build all rocks around it maybe. I'll dig them in. I'll find a run. I won't put a dock trap straight on a run. I'll move it away. And then I'll use a bait that says, well, I'll change it. It's got to be fresh. It's fish. Salmon has been really good for us. That's been very successful. Fat was really good at certain times of the year. You've got to keep changing it around. So you've got to create like a little restaurant. And I like stuff that smells. Because if you've got something that smells a bit, it's going to travel various baits. If there's not much pungency to it, is that the word I'm looking for? Then it's not enhancing it enough. And then they might not like that. So then you've got to put bits of it around, maybe a little bit of pre-bait in. Or look at what they are eating. Now we've got them. I went up to the pit the other day and there's a rabbit in the pit, dead rabbit in there. The rats are not eating it. No point in me using rabbit bait. They're going into the fat. They want the fat content at this time of year. So the best bait for this time, the last 3 weeks, they've stopped eating young rats. So they have not had no success with the young rat as a bait, and it's gone on to fat, and they've started taking fat. So that's the way I try and look around and see what they're doing. Sometimes I'll put a board out, and I'll smear all different baits on it, and I'll go back and forth, visit that, and see which bait has been taken, seeing whether there's a hierarchy of their baits, which ones they're preferring. Do that a couple of times, and find out which one's going. If you put it like same as chew sticks, I suppose you could put them on chew sticks and bait up different chew sticks, or I just plonk it all down on a board. And yeah, that's the way I do that. Does that answer your question? Good nature taps. I've got them under the shelf in the shed. I won't take them out. No success with them at all. Nothing at all. I know people that have had success with them, but I think the main success from the people I've spoken to has been when there's been a lot of rats around, and then it drops off. So no, mine are just I don't waste my time with them.